Hey, everybody, welcome back to another fantastic. I'm going to say it's fantastic. Before we even start chatting with today's guest, I'm going to say it's fantastic because I know it will be. Fantastic episode of Matt Report at mattreport.com, mattreport.com/subscribe. Today's special guest is, you might have seen him from my YouTube channel. Dave, I do so many YouTube channels, I forget which YouTube channel you were on, but Dave Foy is here with us today. Dave, welcome to the program.
Hello there. Thank you very, very much for having me. It's taken us a while to get this together, but we're here now.
Hey, all good things take time to create.
Exactly.
Which is a lot about what we'll talk about today. Is your life, your journey as a content creator, more specifically an educator in creating content for those of us who are building websites. The tease here is you have been a prolific teacher in the WordPress space, but now making the leap to Webflow.
Yeah.
Dave's latest product can be found at www. Do people still say that these days?
Yeah, we can have those.
WP2WF.com. WP2WF, and the WF stands for Webflow. It's a dangerous thing to say on these airwaves.
It's a dirty word, isn't it, in the WordPress space?
But you spent years. I'll say years. You can fill me in if that's
no, that sounds right.
Spent years training people and educating people in a fantastic way. I'm very jealous of your work. You do a fantastic job at it. High quality. For those of you who are watching the YouTube channel, you should see that I'm kind of jealous today because I'm doing it from my home office. I don't have all my fancy equipment, and Dave brought the heat with his amazing studio that he has. So Dave, why this leap from WordPress to Webflow? What was that sparked that interest?
Yeah, good question. It's one of those things that I have to say I had a lot of resistance, a lot of inner resistance to, partly because, switching tools is not for the faint-hearted. It's quite an expensive process, isn't it? In terms of, sunk cost, in terms of what you've already put into the amount of time and energy that you've put into learning tools that you've previously used. But I mean, I also have still, but I had at the time like a multiple six-figure a year business teaching WordPress, teaching very specific tools, WordPress and Elementor. That combination, Elementor Page Builder, and so it really was kind of it was a real kind of crunch time for me, for thinking that I have got to the point where I cannot use these tools anymore. I'm finding that I'll talk about the details in a moment, but I can't in all conscience recommend this particular combination of tools that I am well known for and, very well paid for. I can't carry on doing it. So, believe me, it was quite a risk. I think I remember one of my students saying, so I think I mentioned it's something in the little private Facebook group that I've got for one of my courses, and he just said, "Career suicide." Nice. So
thanks for the vote of confidence.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, he probably had a point. He probably had a point.
Just real quick, what was that concern for you to say, you know what, I don't feel like I can recommend these tools anymore? Was it more an Elementor thing? Was it more a WordPress thing? I mean, we're in this chaotic times where it's like Gutenberg is still trying to get better, full site editing's coming, and then you layer on the complexity of a piece of software that wants you to build a website a certain way. Are we just hitting a perfect storm here, or was there something specific?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Because I had got to the point where I'd started. Well, I've been using WordPress since 2007, something like that. So for my own personal projects and my own client projects, I'd used WordPress for a good long time. It was when I actually decided to teach online. Long story. I think we've covered this plenty of times before, but for 10 years, I was actually a school teacher. I am a qualified teacher. So I was a qualified teacher teaching young children in the UK back in the 90s and early 2000s. And I'd then gone into web design and built up a great business. But I just decided that I just missed teaching so much. So for me, around 2016-ish, I decided I actually want to get back into teaching, but I want to teach the thing that I've been working with, the web design tools that I've been working with for many years. What a perfect combination. So I'd done a lot of research, long story, but I'd discovered Elementor, which was just in its earliest stages at the time, and thought this combination of tools is brilliant for my target market. My target market is always non-coders, people who don't want to code and probably feel a bit nervous about the prospect as well. They want to build websites, but web design technology, web design tools, web development isn't something that is natural to them. It's not something that they are completely au fait with and understand. So I always see my job as taking people who look at all this stuff and think, oh, wow, this is so complicated and possibly quite scary. It's my job to say, it's all fine. Just do this, this, and this, and it all works out. So in a sense, I'd particularly chosen WordPress and Elementor, that particular combination, because it just seemed right for my target market. Now, over the years, Elementor has added on features and features and features. WordPress itself, as you say, is changing dramatically. I think ultimately that will be for the good of WordPress, definitely. I know a lot of people complain about Gutenberg, but I think it is getting there. But it got to the point where I started to think, would I, in all kind of conscience, I suppose, would I, in all conscience, now recommend to somebody who wants a fuss-free, hassle-free, stress-free web design experience where basically stuff just works? All of the scary kind of hassle behind the scenes, all the kind of configuration, all the the stuff that people complain about WordPress, which is actually its strength at the same time, which is its plugin system, plugin architecture. But I'd got to the point where, for my own use of WordPress, but also just being sensitive to the needs of my students and the needs of the people who I work with day in, day out to help with this stuff, I just saw massive frustration, massive frustration with constant plugin updates, constant issues with plugins. It's not new in WordPress at all, obviously, but updating plugins to find that something's broken, there's a conflict with something else, finding websites that, now this is, I think, quite a bit of Elementor's issue, because they have had a history of releasing some quite buggy releases in more recent times. Finding that a website that worked perfectly well last time they logged in now suddenly doesn't work in some way. There's some functionality broken, or there's the layout that's suddenly off. Issues with hosting and just all manner of different things. It's kind of like that little drip. The Chinese water torture, I think it's called. The drip of constant issues where I just thought there's got to be a better way. I know that, for instance, like I use Thinkific for my online course platform, and it's just all done for me. I can get on with actually creating courses, uploading the courses, and teaching. There are I don't know, email marketing platforms where the heavy lifting and the stuff that I don't need to know is done in the background, so I can get on with my job. And I started to think that there must be something better than this constant stress and worry and hassle and maintenance and all of these other things, which is what led me to start looking at possible other solutions.
I'm curious, and as I start to record, as I start to speak here, somebody has decided to cut a tree down outside. So you might hear
nice.
a chainsaw in the background. Here we go again. With high quality productions here at Matt Report. Were you actually getting? I've seen this as somebody who's obviously in the WordPress space.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the the love-hate relationship with Gutenberg, how fast this piece of software has been iterated on, and just all the changes. You couple that with Elementor, which is also on a rocket ship ride. They're growing, they're adding new features. They've hit a bout of turbulence, I guess is probably the the nicest thing that I could say. I know I've seen
Very
you
nice.
and Paul on Twitter really hammering at home with Elementor for good reason. And they have to be conscious, I think, of Elementor. They have to be conscious of just not throwing the kitchen sink at everything for the sake of the kitchen sink. But also, when I look at this is a long way of getting to this, like framing this question, but I feel like folks who are looking for a Webflow solution understand that they should invest some money in a platform that's just going to do it without the fuss, updates, hosting issues, incompatibilities with other plugins. Like, I will pay to have that done on Webflow versus the WordPress side of it, where it's like, man, there's so many variables that can be thrown at this. But also, I think you and I have talked about this before. Like, I look at the Elementor user. I mean, no offense by this, because I know it doesn't speak for everyone, but I just see things like, when are you going to drop the 3D animated transitions so that when I click a button, it pops up and calls another service and then sells this thing for me for free? When is that going to come? Right. And then if they don't get it, they're looking at they're literally looking for this one feature, and they will shift entire platforms to get this one feature. And in my head, I'm like, no, this is not the way you should be approaching this. It's a long way of me getting to, like, were you getting that feedback from your audience? Like, hey man, like, we want something a little bit easier here, or was it just a gut feel as a creator, as somebody who's been doing this for a while, that you said, I got to stake a claim somewhere else?
Yeah, it was. As I said at the beginning, it was a very, very reluctant looking for something else for very, very lots of reasons. I didn't want to be looking anywhere else. Yeah, partly it was myself, and it was partly because of Elementor's buggy releases. So I got on with, for instance, I needed to build a new website for myself late last year, and I installed a new instance of WordPress. And Elementor's like global colors just didn't work at all, just broken. And so there were several issues like that, just personally for myself. As it was like, oh, what is it now? And it's not just Elementor. I think there are lots and lots of other plugins as well. But let's I'm probably focusing on Elementor maybe a bit too much, but yeah, it certainly wasn't a gut feeling from my audience and students by any means. I mean, my group, my sort of private group, was just every day there was just something of like, why isn't this working? Why is this thing broken now? Or it wasn't just necessarily just WordPress; it was like hosting as well, or people. I think because of the plugin architecture, and there are plugins coming down the pipe every single day, as you and I know, constantly with new features and potentially solving problems with SEO and page speed and everything else. So there were those issues with stuff just being broken and being hard, and people struggling just to keep up with the frantic pace of change. I think that was partly the thing, but I think also it was just, I think, yeah, just I suppose people just. I'm just trying to think of the best way to put it, really. Yeah, just general kind of anxiety about stuff being broken and stuff just not being easy, I think is the easiest way to put it. Yeah.
I want to ask you this question. This is going a little bit deeper in sort of like the creator in the creator mindset, the business of being a creator and monetizing on, let's say, YouTube and affiliate sales. It probably wasn't an easy decision to make either, because one would imagine, knowing what I did with affiliate sales for Elementor, which was a flea on an elephant's ass, probably compared to what you and maybe others have done. It was probably a tough business decision too, right? To be like, look, I'm making money. And I think you and Paul and the other, folks that I communicate with on YouTube, you do affiliates right. Right. I think of immediately when people think affiliates are like, oh, what are you trying to sell me? What kind of cloaking device are you using on these links? Like at one point in your career, you were like, Elementor is a fantastic tool at this time, and they have an affiliate program. Why not recommend this and make money? It's a legit way when you're doing it a legit way. I don't have any other better way of saying that. So probably at some point you were like, man, like I will be turning off this faucet potentially of money. What was that like? And do you have any thoughts or feelings around affiliate sales and how this helps make the decision for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, the affiliate business model was never ever my intention when I first started. My thing was I'm going to sell courses, and affiliate sales have always just been a bit of a nice to have. When I first started my YouTube channel, started making videos about this fairly brand new tool called Elementor at the time, I happened to mention my affiliate link. I think I just dropped it in the description sometimes. I would occasionally, when Elementor had an offer, I would let my email list know, which was growing my business model was growing my email list to sell courses. In a nutshell, that's it. And it still is really grow the email list to sell courses. But thank goodness that I was an affiliate for Elementor in those early days, because in the first kind of 9 months of me getting to the point where I even had the confidence to make a course and to feel like I could sell it at all. We're going back to 2017 now, which seems so long ago. It's only a few years, but yeah, the affiliate income from I was an affiliate for very very few products: Elementor, Generate Press, I don't know, maybe a hosting platform as well. But the income from that was better than I'd been making working full time as a web designer. And it absolutely saved my ass, because if I hadn't have had that income, I think the whole online course thing probably would have failed. Now, I say that because I took way too long to actually make a product and offer it to my audience and to my email list. So these days, when I mentor and help people create products and make online courses, one of my first things is to say build a as small an email list as you can get away with. Find 100 people and sell something. Make something to sell. It can be very low value, not low value, low price. It doesn't matter, but start making something and start selling something straight away, because it's only then that you can start getting true feedback about what people actually want, what they're prepared to pay for, and where you should put your energies. But yeah, the affiliate thing was massive. But my the income I'm saying about, I'm not saying it to brag, but is a multiple six figures a year business is mostly from courses. It's mostly from selling courses. I'd say 90% is from selling courses about WordPress and Elementor, specifically about using those tools. And yeah, to say that it's a career suicide. There's the phrase, career suicide.
And you were lucky enough to get to a point. Did you turn ads on your YouTube channel?
No,
Never did.
never had monetization on.
Okay.
No, never.
Just because you didn't want the experience, or like the user to have that experience of ads, or you were never looking at it as a third channel?
I think what I wanted to do was just to make sure that the foolishly, probably, this is not a savvy business head talking, but I think I just wanted just to make sure that when people watch my videos, they were just not being interrupted by ads, and they could just actually enjoy the experience of watching the videos. And I suspected that probably the income from that wasn't particularly going to be too great anyway. So I just always kept monetization off for that reason, really.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I turned it on. So what I like here is your story. Your lesson is you're monetizing through the courses, selling the courses, and the affiliate, right? So you have two streams of income. Probably could have turned on the ads like I did, but it probably would have, that third revenue stream probably would have been much smaller than maybe your affiliate to your thing, but who knows? I mean,
Uh-huh.
when I turned on mine, I mean, my YouTube story is like, I was just, you know, again, like, I'm not joking. Like, I would look back and I saw like what everyone was doing on YouTube, you, Paul, and others that I respect on YouTube. I draw a line in the sand with others, but you know, you guys are the first two that come to mind that I really respect. And I was like, how do I get into this game? How do I create this content? And I quickly, well, I don't say quickly, it took me 6 months to burn out doing like 3 videos a week, or maybe 3 or 4 videos a week.
Oof.
I had this ambitious goal of doing it like every day, and I just flatlined, burned out. The quick story is, you know, I literally didn't touch it for a year, and then all of a sudden, whatever, AdSense sent me the first check for $100, right, which is what the minimum threshold is or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I logged in, and I had like tripled my audience without uploading a video in a year, just because of SEO. And like the
Yeah.
light bulb went off, like, you fool, you shouldn't have given up. You should have done it less so you didn't burn yourself out, but you shouldn't have given up. You know, and again, like, life gets in the way. YouTube stuff is so far away from my daily routine that I haven't uploaded episodes then, but I still am making $300 or $400 a month in ads.
Mm.
And I have a lot of kids, so diapers are expensive. So
Yeah,
I leave the ads on, you know, but
absolutely.
I could certainly see in your world where these bigger products, bigger prices, the brand, the value there is a target for you to focus on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think I wanted that sense of kind of trustworthiness and just that experience. Really, I was not to say that people with ads. I watch. Oh, well, I've got YouTube Premium now, so I don't see any ads. But you know, seeing ads on people's videos, I actually don't. I don't personally tie that into a decision that's made by the creator of the video at all. It doesn't. I mean, I understand how it works as well, but I don't ever think, oh, they've got ads turned on. They obviously don't care about my experience as a viewer. It doesn't
Right.
enter my head, you know.
Yeah.
So
Side note, I also signed up recently for premium. Like, it was finally one of those things where, you know, before you sign up for premium, every time you logged into YouTube, they'd be like, do premium, do premium, do premium. And I was like, close, close, close. And I tell you, Dave, I'm like, screw it. I'm going to do it.
yeah,
Like, finally, you got me, YouTube. Literally 1,000 pop-ups later is probably what my conversion metrics were. You finally got me, and I signed up, and I watched my first video with no ads, and I was like, wow.
yeah. Welcome
Like,
to the other side.
my brain was trained so much now with like their 3 pre-roll ads, and then the pop-up in the middle, the banner, and then like the mid-roll. And when I'm doing work for Castos, sometimes I'm in the Castos account and I'm uploading my videos for Castos, and I'll be watching something and I'll be like, what is this ad? Like, my brain is like, what is this? Like, what's happening? And like, oh yeah, I'm not in my premium account.
It's awesome. I think it's worth every single penny.
It is. It is.
Yeah,
It is.
definitely.
It's like when I go on vacation with my children, and recently, we were in Florida, and they're watching TV, cable TV, and there's commercials, and my kids are literally asking me, Dad, what is this? Why isn't the show playing? Because they're so used to Netflix and Disney Plus, and they see a commercial and they are freaking out. They're like, what is a show? Where's the show? And I'm like, it's just it's this thing called commercial, kids, that you didn't grow up with. Welcome to my world.
Oh, wow.
All right. As we get into the back half of this conversation, Webflow, did you, you said, like, I want to find a platform that is easy, all encompassing. Was Webflow always in the back of your mind, or did you start doing some homework and then you settled on Webflow?
Yeah, well, I'd actually been recommended Webflow several times over at least 2 years, probably more. And every time somebody said to me, dude, you've got to check Webflow out. And these were people that I trusted and respected, friends of mine, colleagues, people all over the place. And people who had never looked back, who had just adopted it for their agency as their go-to tool. And they moved from WordPress as well. And every single time somebody recommended it, I said, "Whoa, yeah, I've heard of that. I'll check it out." And then I would immediately toss the idea in the bin and think, there is literally no way I am looking at any other tools, because I've got a lot of, as we said, a lot invested in WordPress and everything. So Um, yeah, so actually choosing Webflow, I had a little look around to see anything else. I obviously didn't bother looking at the Squarespaces and the Wixes and things like that. But yeah, Webflow was pretty much the only one that I considered. Now, I actually tried it and gave up 3 times. Like completely just thought, right, come on, you can do this. I mean, how hard can it be? And gave up 3 times because it's not a beginner's platform. It's not designed for people who that Squarespace is designed for. You don't get a load of pre-made designs, and in fact, it's harder to use than I would say a WordPress page builder. Probably not Oxygen, because Oxygen is based very, very, very much on Webflow, as I understand. But yeah, it was hard. And what I also found as well is that so what would happen is I give it a try and think, oh no, 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 I just haven't got time. I'll persevere with what I'm using. And it was the third time that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I've got to figure this out. And in some ways, it really appealed to me because when you I won't go into the details too much, but when you style anything in Webflow, you literally click on anything. A podcast doesn't make this a very good visual medium for me to explain this, but when you click on anything in Webflow and you want to style it, it could be literally any element whatsoever. You give it a name, like a class. You give that class whatever styles you like. You've got all the styles at your disposal, really easy, nice UI, and then you just use that class on anything else that you want to give that's those same styles. So the sense of having literally un you know like unlimited global styling, not having to go to some separate styling panel somewhere to constantly kind of keep going back and sort of adjusting things, um, and also not being at the I suppose just the page, whatever the page builder developer has decided the global styles are that you're going to have, is what you're stuck with. You're limited by that usually. With Webflow, you can just do what you like. Now, as like a dinosaur, old school HTML and CSS hand coder back in the day, this really appealed to me because I used to write CSS and I'd have one single CSS file which I could just create as many styles as I liked, and I could control them all from one place. So it was that particularly about Webflow that just super appealed to me. The lack of limits, really. I'm not being I'm not being I'm not being hampered by. I mean, it's great. For instance, Elementor, just as an example, it's got a whole load of widgets, and there are probably about a million different third-party add-ons as well. It will all bring a load more widgets as well, and it is amazing. You can drag a widget on the screen, it just onto the canvas. It just produces, your tabs or your post layout or whatever it is. But you're still fairly limited by the styling options that developer has decided to give you. Whereas with Webflow, it's just completely open ended. But the problem, it's like everything in life, there are constant trade offs. The problem with that beautiful open endedness is that you can make a real mess. If you're not careful, if you've not kind of got a system and a workflow and a way that you decide that you're going to name classes and use them and reuse them, it can be a bit of a mess. And that's the issue that I hit immediately. There's Webflow University, which is Webflow's own free training, is absolutely brilliant. I mean, as an educator myself, as a teacher myself, I mean, I just think that their videos are astounding. They're incredible, and I think it speaks volumes about a company like that who have invested so much time and energy into training their users. So that stuff was helpful, and it kind of definitely got me so far. But I think because my teaching in WordPress and Elementor was all about, you've got all these tools, you've got all the colors in all the crayons in the box, but you need a system, you need a workflow, you need to set yourself limits, so that, you can produce sites really quickly, really productively, profitably. and not have to think too much. You've got a system and you just do it and you just build them. So I that was the sticking point with Webflow, and it's what I ended up actually building a framework myself. I thought there isn't anything really. There are Webflow frameworks out there, but they all had issues for me. So I ended
Yeah.
up building my own.
And it's a
And
great, I mean, like you sort of, like a lot of us, and this is the way that I learned too. Like I've tried Webflow before, and me, it's much more of like shiny object syndrome and a little bit of like this whole like no code uh, movement where it's like, I don't know. Sometimes I've sat back and be like, man, if I could just have like a database that I use like connected with Zapier and I could like automate these things. I see all these other people do it like in 2 seconds on the back of a napkin. And I'm like, I want to do that too. And then like I jump into like Webflow and I'm like, oh God, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm going away from this. This
yeah,
leads, and what I'm getting at here is like you tried it 3 times, whatever, failed, and you're like, if somebody could just teach it my way. You built it, right? You built the course to like get people over that hump, quite literally coming from WordPress to Webflow, the name of your course.
mm.
Um, is there a particular like WordPress user or WordPress stack that somebody might be using who's like the perfect fit to for your course, number one, but for Webflow? Like certainly somebody who's just, I'm just a simple lowly WordPress blogger is probably not going to need your course, is probably not going to need Webflow. But is there a certain avatar that is a perfect fit for your course, but for also to reap the benefits of Webflow?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would say that people who, I mean, if somebody is a WordPress developer, right? So we'll discount those people immediately. People are building their own themes and things like that. Then absolutely, definitely not. I'm sure that WordPress gives you all of the control and the power and everything that you need. So I would say it would be more people who are trying to build fully functional websites using WordPress and a page builder. I would say the people who definitely need a page builder of some kind. Now, I mean, Gutenberg is a page builder, and it's developing fast as well. So I would say people who are using those tools particularly, as I said, in a sense, Webflow is a bit more complicated. So it's not just a case. It is in some ways, but there isn't the pre-built, here is everything done for you aspect of quite a lot of the stuff that comes with a page builder. So there are certain things that you need to understand in the background. You need to understand what's going on. You need to understand a little bit about HTML and CSS as well. So just an understanding of just like how HTML interacts with CSS, just on a very basic level, to understand things like inheritance. So when you set a style on the body, for instance, that is going to trickle down to everything underneath it, all the content and everything underneath it, unless you override it. So there are concepts like that in a page builder, those people probably don't really even need to ever think about particularly. You can just bodge something together quite easily. I would say though that I do know of quite a lot of front end developers, and I suppose back end developers as well, who really enjoy using Webflow because it allows them to effectively write HTML and CSS without having to actually write HTML and CSS, because it's like a graphical user interface for that. But for me, I am more than happy to recommend Webflow to my audience, which are, as I said, non-coders. They need a page builder, and they're a little bit nervous about all the multitude of different tools and things that they need to know.
Uh, I'm curious. I mean, I know that as of this time, which is September 17th
Mm.
at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in New England, which is where we we won't get into the
I'm
whole
in.
U.S. versus.
I'm in the old one.
You're in
Hello.
the old one. You're in the original one. I know the course is not for sale yet. I'm curious, and I've seen it. I think I've gone through the first 2 modules, and for the
Yeah.
listener out there, like when Dave says he takes time, it took me so long to do this. Yeah, but the quality is just mind blowing, and I can't even
Oh, thank
imagine,
you.
Dave, how much time you've spent on it. I don't know if you have a number of hours counted, or if you even want to admit how long you've been into it. I know it's not for sale yet. Do you, as of this recording, but maybe when we launch this recording, do you anticipate some turbulence there, right? So people in WordPress, they're very much used to free or low cost. Webflow's paid. They're paying for your course. What are your thoughts? What's the gut tell you on promoting this as a business owner?
Yeah, well, the first thing I would say is that when I started thinking about building a business, making online courses at all, my first thought was, who on earth is going to pay any money for learning any of this stuff? I mean, there's this thing called YouTube. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's just full of all the free advice and tutorials and walkthroughs you could ever hope for. So I purposefully, actually, I got over that mindset issue quite quickly. It's nonsense, but people are prepared to pay, and they're prepared to pay good money as well for an investment in their career and their time and their stress levels and everything else. So in terms of me worrying too much about people paying for a course or even paying for a platform doesn't really worry me too much, because the people who buy my courses are people, they are, I always think that out of my email list, probably, I don't know what the numbers are, 5% will buy something that I make. And those people are prepared to pay. I don't know how much my courses have been. I think the highest price No Stress WordPress was, which is discontinued now, not in, fairly indefinitely. I think that was about $800 for that. So, between sort of 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 bucks for a course, those people are absolutely. I mean, the Webflow course isn't that at all. I think it's starting at 297. So that's a bit lower just to get started with at the moment. But I'm fairly convinced, and I'm delighted to appeal to people who are willing to invest in their education, their professional development, and the tools that they use as well for an easier life, and to actually ultimately get a return on their investment, in terms of faster builds and not having to worry about updating plugins and maintenance and stuff breaking and having to fix things and all that sort of thing. So it doesn't really worry me at all.
Yeah, I mean, when you have somebody who's already, I did an article. Again, if I was a professional podcaster, I would have this up. I think Elementor, Webflow. Let's just see if my site ranks first. It doesn't. It doesn't. Let's see, Elementor, Web. Oh yeah, it does. I'm on the first page. Okay, a little bit down on the first page if you Google Elementor Webflow, but I say in defense of Elementor versus Webflow, and this I published this February. Oh, this year. God, man, you just I don't even understand time anymore. February 11th, 2021. When folks were talking about the price hike of Elementor. Now, I'm not here to argue whether or not the approach of what Elementor was doing with bugs and features and whatnot is fair or not. I didn't have anything against the price hike, if you will, for Elementor because, man, I feel like so many people are making money with Elementor that even if you bought their $1,000 a year for 1,000 websites, I mean, if you're somebody who's producing 1,000 websites, you're at least charging $2 for one of those websites, right? You're selling these websites for at least $2.
Absolutely.
You've doubled your money, right?
Yeah.
So I was never against the raising of the price because hopefully that raises value of all things WordPress. But my point here is people are already spending money in the Webflow world, whereas, hats off and kudos to you. You're selling courses in a WordPress world where a majority of people are used to free. So you already were fighting a battle that I've not been able to solve ever.
There is. I mean, there is a sense, isn't there? Because WordPress is open source, everything should be free, and you hear that all the time. And I think that's just going to be a constant issue, really. One thing that when I actually looked at, certainly for the people that I'm aiming my course at and the people that I kind of want to help, when you actually look at the price of Webflow, because people say, "God, man, Webflow is so expensive." Think, well, if you look at it, you pay an account. I won't go into like all the massive details, but you pay an account plan fee, which is basically a single monthly fee. I think it's about $24 a month, which allows you to build and stage on a Webflow.io subdomain all your Webflow sites you've got in development, and you can share those with clients, and you could even just make those live on the staging subdomain if you didn't want to point a live domain at them. So that $24 a month is basically similar to, if you've got like an Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, or you've got like an Elementor license and a theme license, and it just allows you to use the platform. So that to me is like, well, that seems perfectly fair. And then you pay a per site plan fee as well, which I think is about $20 a month. Now, people who are cramming websites onto, like a $10 a month hosting plan, and they're quite happy with all the configuration and the setup and everything that entails, and possible performance issues and whatever, then absolutely, I mean, knock yourself out. Brilliant. But if you compare to, let's just take a WordPress managed host like Kinsta, for instance. I think Kinsta, last time I looked, was $20 a month, I think. Now, so for each live site you've got a domain pointed to Webflow, you're paying $20 a month for that site. I mean, again, if you're not making at least $20 a month back from the website, then there's something wrong. You really should be. But also with that, you also get like the CDN. You get all of the page speed stuff set up for you, and it's all done for you. The sites are blazing fast, absolutely brilliant. All green, like top of the range kind of page speed scores. The hosting sorted out for you. The security stuff sorted out for you. All of the functionality. Seems to me, in many ways, if you were a person who would appreciate managed hosting, then it seems to me that is actually a pretty good deal overall.
Yeah. I tend to agree. Things get a little crazy when you start getting into the e-commerce world with Webflow. The way that they do pricing, I broke it all down in this post. Although this post is now a few months old, and I'll link that up. I'll try to link that up in the show notes. But
that was a simplified.
At the end of the day, like the trade-off again is support all-in-one platform. If you really wrestle with, I want to own everything for the sake of owning it and it's all mine, it's hard to make that mental leap and appreciation leap. I don't have a better word right now, but it's hard to make that leap from WordPress if you're really stuck in that realm.
Yeah,
right.
Really absolutely. Tough. And I would say to anybody that it's not like I certainly don't say to everybody, you must use Webflow. It is far better than WordPress. That's actually not what I'm saying. It probably comes across that way. There are trade-offs with everything, and if ownership or certainly a feeling of ownership anyway, and having control over every single aspect of your website and website workflow and everything else, if that is important to you for whatever reason, that's great. But there's a trade-off in the maintenance and the plugin updates and the stuff breaking and everything else, and that's the deal. You can't have your cake and eat it kind of thing. I think it's just true of everything in life. Same with Webflow. You don't have all of those hassles, but you've got a platform where you are in a way renting the site from Webflow. What if Webflow disappears overnight? There are all these concerns. I mean, I've got kind of answers for all these objections, but there are also just very, very quickly, one of the biggest objections is which is quite funny to me, is about recurring income from care plans. So people will say, I've got a pretty good business making recurring easy money every month by charging clients to keep the website updated, the WordPress website updated, and make sure it doesn't break for them. What am I going to do about that with Webflow? Because it just works. Where am I going to make this money? My short answer is always, well, first, if all things were equal and you could build a website in WordPress or Webflow, and let's also say that either of them would be appropriate for the project, would you really recommend WordPress because it's prone to problems? It's prone to problems. And it breaks, and you can charge the client forever in order just to basically let them have a working website. It sounds a bit harsh. It sounds like I'm kind of over egging things, but that's kind of how it is, really. Now, my view is your clients don't care about how you did something or how long it took you or the steps you took. They only care about the result. And all that clients are paying you for a care plan, just in terms of the maintenance side of it, not talking about anything else, but the maintenance side of it, they are paying you so that their website is rock solid, isn't down, works perfectly, and it just doesn't have any issues. Well, why can't you charge the client for that? You've found a better or the best platform that you think for their particular needs, for their project, that has all that in place. You've spent all this time and money learning the platform. Why not charge clients for that? I don't think clients particularly care that you've got to update plugins and you've got to spend X amount of time doing that. I think it's a bit of a non-argument, really.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
anyway,
look, at the end of the day, like I think at some of the tiers on Webflow, there's a little phone number you can call, right? So good luck. Calling, you got a dozen plugins doing a bunch of things. You're not going to call Pippin and WooCommerce. You're not going to call these people and get them on a conference call to figure out what your site is. At the end of the day, look, you're paying for that support. And Webflow's, as far as I know in the news, Webflow is slated to be IPO and be a publicly traded company here in the States.
Mm-hmm.
They're a private company now, but they've raised over 140 million, so they're probably valued at billions. I don't even know what money is these days, but
probably, yeah, exactly, yeah. MailChimp is worth, what was it, 12 billion or something
billion,
like that?
Half the banana industry of the entire globe.
So what is money?
Yeah, what is money? Canva just got another 400 million valued at 40 billion. Canva.com. It's just, I don't know, Dave. What are we doing wrong here?
Right. Well, I think I'm going to hang these headphones up.
Yeah. I'm going to make a Canva course. What am I doing with Webflow? Here's how to make a template in Canva. Oh, man. It's called WordPress to Webflow. His name is Dave Foy. You can search for Dave Foy. You can go to davefoy.com. You can search him on YouTube. You can go to WP2WF.com. WordPress to Webflow. Dave, anything else at any other place that people should find you online?
No, you've covered absolutely everything there, my friend. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Fantastic stuff. It's Matt Report, mattreport.com, mattreport.com/subscribe. Hey, if you want to support the content happening here at the Matt Report, go to buymeacoffee.com/Matt Report. You can join the membership there and be part of the news. Right now, it's about the WP Minute. If you want to be involved in the news, you want to have your hand in shaping our weekly WordPress news, the 5-minute dose of WordPress news every week at WPMinute.com. Go to buymeacoffee.com/Matt Report, buymeacoffee.com/Matt Report. Support the show. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode.